The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
Good day, everybody. It's the 13th of September 2014. It's 4 p.m. in the Netherlands, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this is UCY.tv with the Solvinur Event. What's up, everybody? If you go to UCY.tv, mouse over shows and host, click on any of these shows, you end up in the chat room. There's already some people there. Good morning, everybody. Dan, Joe, Jules, Lady Pitbull, and Vince. Good to see y'all. How you been doing? Did you live okay through 2 days ago? It was such a sad day. Even for me, being a non-American. That day has had effect on, well, might as well say the whole world. That's also a reason why the Dutch, there was Dutch television. We in that day had a station, I guess you call it, that broadcasted CNN, and I was kind of news hungry in those days, so I had that on, and all of a sudden it was interrupted because there was a hole in the World Trade Center, and the reason why it got interrupted is not because there was a hole in the World Trade Center. It was because this is the beginning of a mind control, quote-unquote, experiment. It's trauma-based mind control. That's what was the plan for that day, and that's why it got interrupted. The newscasts got interrupted worldwide, because it did not have an effect only on the United States with the Patriot Act and all of that being implemented, which was written long before 9/11 even ever happened. So that's why there was an interruption that early. They didn't even know, at least the newscasters that were there, they were kind of confused. They didn't know what was happening. I remember one of them saying, I think I remember, that it doesn't seem like an accident because, and that's what one commentator said to the other, it looks like an accident or something like that, and he said, no, it doesn't look like an accident because the sky is clear. And it was a clear sky that day, no mists or anything, so, you know, it doesn't look like it was an accident. You could have easily avoided flying in there. And then when the second plane hit, it was obvious, of course, but the newscasters, they still were kind of confused. So, anyway, enough about that. Welcome, Lady Pitbull, did I mention you there? Yeah, I guess I did. How you doing in your own radio adventure? You doing okay? Still working at it? Vince, how about you? Sometimes it seems like these programs are just radio hosts talking to each other, right? Yeah. Anyway, if you want to join, you can do so. Call me at Skype, contact me at Skype, SOLVINUR, SOLVINUR, and I'll get you in here. Or you can send me an email so that we can set up a date. Solvinur2@yahoo.com. Questions, I can try to follow them in the chat room. If you have any questions about anything, doesn't really matter. And I'll try to answer them as best as I can. So, we continue here with the Mahabharata. Now, before I get started, the reason why I stopped doing the Trivium is because there was so much lack of spirituality. And now you hear me breaking down these texts and saying, well, these gods don't exist and all of that. Listen, you don't have to be a theist to have a spiritual mind, so to speak. Right? I'm not very spiritual myself. However, the whole materialistic view that we have today, like how the pharmaceutical industry is treating us, for instance, they think that your bodies are just machines. That is flawed. Right? There's more to it than that, and that's already where your spiritual journey starts. Alright, so these religions, a lot of them are based on these texts, Mahabharata. They have been hijacked. Alright, so that's the reason why I'm tearing this down. This doesn't mean that I'm an atheist. Alright, that's a statement that I would not make. It's very hard to disprove the existence of quote-unquote God. It's also very hard to prove the existence of God. So disprove or prove, and don't even try. It's impossible. So don't call yourself an atheist. Don't call yourself a theist. You're putting yourself in a hole there where you don't belong, because you can't support any of those statements with actual arguments. So the reason why I break this down is because this has been hijacked. These are hijacked texts. They are used to control people. That's why I attack them so much. Alright? Alright, so if you remember from last week, there was this lady, Jaratkaru, who was married to a man with the same name, and she got into a problem because the man was supposed to say his prayers when the sun goes down, but he was asleep in her lap, and so she woke him up, and that ended kind of badly. It continues, the Rishi Jaratkaru, great in ascetic merit, possessed with anger and desires of forsaking his spouse, thus addressed, spoke unto his wife, saying, O thou fair one, never have I spoken a falsehood. Right, this refers to the promise, quote-unquote promise, that he made, that he was going to leave her if ever anything happened that he didn't like. And so, apparently he didn't like being woken up. And that's why it continues here. Therefore, go I shall. That sounds rather Yoda-like, doesn't it? This was also settled between ourselves, O amiable one. It behoveth thee not to grieve for me. and thus addressed Jaratkaru, the fair sister of Vasuki, of Vulture's features, filled with anxiety and sorrow, having mustered sufficient courage and patience, though her heart was still quaking, then spoke unto Rishi Jaratkaru. Then spoke unto Rishi Jaratkaru. Her words were obstructed with tears, and her face was pale with fear, and the palms of her hands were joined together, and her eyes were bathed in tears. And she said, It behooved thee not to leave me without a fault. Thou treadest over the path of virtue. I too have been in the same path, with heart fixed on the good of my relatives. O best of Brahmanas, the object for which I was bestowed on thee has not been accomplished yet. Yes, it has. I'll get to that a little bit later. Unfortunate that I am, what shall Vasuki say unto me, O excellent one? The offspring desired of by my relatives, afflicted by a mother's curse, do not yet appear. The welfare of my relatives depends on the acquisition of offspring from thee, and in order that my connection with thee may not be fruitless, O illustrious Brahmana, moved by the desire of doing good to my race, do I entreat thee. O excellent one, high-souled thou art, so why shalt thou leave me who am faultless? This is what is just not clear to me. Good morning, Dan TN, what's up? How you doing? Thus addressed the Muni of great ascetic merit spoke unto his wife Jaratkaru these words that were proper and suitable to the occasion. And he said, O fortunate one, the being thou hast conceived, even like unto Agni himself, is a rishi of soul highly virtuous, and the master of the Vedas and their branches. So he's assuring her that she is kind of pregnant. So, having said so, the great Rishi, Jaratkaru of virtuous soul, went away, his heart firmly fixed on practicing again the severest penances. Note in the word penances that there is that word pen again. Remember from last week? Alright, that's the end of the section. Next. Sauti said, O thou of ascetic wealth, soon after her lord had left her, Jaratkaru went to her brother, and she told him everything that had happened. And the prince of Snake, hearing the calamitous news, spoke unto his miserable sister, himself more miserable still. And he said, Thou knowest, O amiable one, the purpose of thy bestowal, the reason thereof. If, from that union, for the welfare of the snakes, a son be born, then he, possessed of energy, will save us from the snake sacrifice. Good morning, Joe. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. The grandsire had said so of old in the midst of the gods. O fortunate one, hast thou conceived from thy union with that best of rishis? There's a question there. My heart's desire is that my bestowal of thee on that wise one may not be fruitless. Truly, it is not proper for me to ask thee about this, but from my gravity of the interest I ask thee this, knowing also the obstinacy of thy lord, ever engaged in severe penances. I shall not follow him, for he may curse me. Tell me in detail all that thy lord, O amiable one, has done, and extract that terrible afflicting dart that lies implanted for a long time past in my heart. Jaratkaru, thus addressed, consoling Vasuki, the king of snakes, at length replied, saying, "Asked by me about offspring, the high-souled and mighty ascetic said, 'There is,' and then he went away. I do not remember him to have ever before speak even in jest aught that is false. Why should he, O king, speak a falsehood on such a serious occasion? He said, 'Thou shalt not grieve, O daughter of the snake race, about the intended result of our union. A son shall be born to thee, resplendent as the blazing sun.' O brother, having said this to me, my husband of ascetic wealth went away. Therefore let the deep sorrow cherished in thy heart disappear." So he continued, "Thus addressed, Vasuki, the king of snakes, accepted those words of his sister and in great joy said, 'Be it so.' And the chief of the snakes then adored his sister with the best regards, gift of wealth, and fitting eulogies. Then, O best of Brahmanas, the embryo endued with great splendor began to develop, like the moon in the heavens in the bright fortnight." Right? Waning and waxing moon, right? "And in due time, the sister of the snakes, O Brahmana, gave birth to a son of the splendor of a celestial child, who became the reliever of the fears of his ancestor and maternal relatives. The child grew up there in the house of the king of the snakes. He studied the Vedas and their branches with the ascetic Jayavana, the son of Brigu." Alright, so it says here, he studied the Vedas and their branches. The Vedas are sometimes seen as a tree. "And though but a boy, his vows were rigid, and he was gifted with great intelligence, and with the several attributes of virtue, knowledge, freedom from world's indulgences, and saintliness." Sometimes my tonation is not in order. "And the name by which he was known to the world was Astika. And he was known by the name of Astika." So why repeat this? It opens brackets here and says "whoever is." Right? That's probably what Astika means. "Because his father had gone to the woods saying, 'There is.'" Ow. That's why. When he was in the womb. Yeah. Those are the words "there is a pretty philosophical issue, by the way. "Though but a boy, he had great gravity and intelligence, and he was reared with great care in the palace of the snakes, and he was like the illustrious lord of the celestials, Mahadeva of the golden form, the wielder of the trident." Alright, that should be Shiva. "And he grew up day by day, the delight of all the snakes." Alright, wielder of the trident, that's probably Shiva. Next section. It's Sanauka said, he's asking Sauti, "Tell me again in detail all that King Janamajaya had asked his ministers about his father's ascension to heaven." Sauti said, "O Brahmana, hear all that the king asked his ministers and all that they said about the death of Parikshit." Janamajaya asked, "Know ye all that befell my father? How did that famous king, in time, meet with his death? Hearing from you the incidents on my father's life in detail, I shall ordain something, if it be for the benefit of the world, otherwise I shall do nothing." Well, what are we supposed to make of that? The minister replied, "Hear, O monarch, what thou hast asked, an account of thy illustrious father's life, and how also that King of Kings left this world. Yeah. So even in those days, at least according to the mythology, like 5,000 years ago or more, there were emperors and kings. All right. So if you were king, you would have used your army to gain some land, and you would be king of that land. There are, however, people in those days that have devoured kingdoms. All right. And if you devour enough of them, you become an emperor. So that would be king of kings. You see. All right. Let's get a lighter that works. All right. Thy father was virtuous and high-souled, and always protected his people. Oh, hear now how that high-souled one conducted himself on the earth. Like unto an impersonation of virtue and justice, the monarch, cognizant of virtue, virtuously protected the four orders. All right, the word orders is significant here. They're talking about castes. Brahmanas at the top, Kshatriyas below that. Right? The Brahmanas are the priests. Kshatriyas are the military. Then you've got the Vaishyas and the Sudras below that. They are the farmers, the economic order, and the rest of us. Each engaged in the discharge of their specific duties. Yeah. I should check up on that. I think they all see us as farmers. That would be all of us. Alright. Of incomparable prowess and blessed with fortune, he protected the goddess Earth. Right, so that's what they mean with specific duties, right? The Brahmanas, they tell the Kshatriyas what to do. They are supposed to be in charge of all the knowledge. They do the sacrifices, right? The Kshatriyas are supposed to protect the people. That was their duty, at least in those days. The economic ones, the Vaishyas, are supposed to regulate the economy, and the Sudras, the farmers, that will be us. We are supposed to, make food by use of the earth. Okay, continuing. Of incomparable prowess and blessed with fortune, he protected the goddess Earth. Alright, so you see the earth is spelled here with a capital E. She is seen, she is personified. Right, she is seen as a living being. Yeah. I don't know exactly what to think about that, to be honest with you. I have a rather different view. I don't believe in separate souls, like you are a living being, therefore you are a soul, and he is a living being, therefore he is a soul. Note not he has a soul. Alright, so I tend to think there's life, and that's about it. And it's kind of hard to prove that there is any individuality there. But it might be, I don't know. It's too dark for me to see. There was none who hated him, and he himself hated none. Like unto Prajapati, that's Brahma, he was equally disposed towards all creatures. Right, so Brahma, equally disposed towards all creatures, that's like the sun. Right, the sun shines on an evil person just as it does on a good person. O monarch, Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and Sudras, there you go, all engaged contentedly in the practice of their respective duties, were impartially protected by that king. Widows and orphans, the maimed and the poor, he maintained. Of handsome features he was unto all creatures like a second Soma. Oh, what the heck is that? Like a second soma? Cherishing his subjects and keeping them contented, blessed with good fortune, truth-telling, of immense prowess, he was the disciple of Saratvat in the science of arms. And, O Janamaya, thy father was dear unto Govinda. That's another word for Vishnu. Govinda is known, if I remember correct, as a goddess that is tied to cows. Right? In India, the cow is seen as some kind of holy creature. If it walks on the street, all the traffic stops. Because, you don't touch a cow, you don't move the cow, you just leave it alone. Of great fame, he was loved by all men. And you gotta wonder about that, about these cows, because when you see some of them, they look very meager. I believe that's the word. They don't look well fed at all. I mean, the Dutch cows, they look much better, I tell ya. And he was born in the womb of Uttara, when the Kuru race was almost extinct. And therefore the mighty son of Abhimanyu came to be called Parikshit, born in an extinct line. That's what it means, Parikshit, born in an extinct line. Well versed in the interpretation of treatises on the duties of kings, which is, by the way, Kshatriya, kings are Kshatriyas. He was gifted with every virtue, with passion under complete control, intelligent, possessing a retentive memory, the practices of all virtues, the conqueror of his 6 passions and powerful mind, surpassing all and fully acquainted with the science of morality and political science, the father had ruled over these subjects for 60 years. Alright, it says here, with passions under complete control. There's something about that word. If it's translated properly, that is. There's this philosophy in Eastern ways of thinking that Plato actually copied, and here's I'll explain a little bit about a part of it. Alright? They say that you come from the rift, alright? That's what they call it, the rift, R-I-F-T, right? There seems to be a rift between the absolute world and the material world, right? That's what how they explain it. The absolute world is where all the quote-unquote souls are, and they do not get born, right? They have only the third body, right? We got three bodies here on this material plane. You've got your material body, that with which you bang on the table, right? Then you got your dream body, that's your mind, and then there's Sat Chit Ananda, as they call it. That's your eternal body. You can never ever lose that. And that's the body that is in this absolute world, where there are absolute properties like eternal, all-knowing, all-pervading, and so on. We'll get to those absolute properties at a later point also. Try to explain a little bit more about them. But that's it for now. So between this absolute world and the material world, there is a rift from which souls come. And when you enter into the material world, they say that you are under the influence of the gunas, as they call them, G-U-N-A. And this is where the 4 castes also come in. Because if you are born, no, not if you are born, if you are under the influence of one of these, gunas. Right? They are like natural influences, is the best way I can describe it. Then you become a brahmana. If you are under the influence of one of them and another, right, then you become a kshatriya. Those first two are goodness and passion. Right, so if you're under the influence of goodness, you become a brahmana. You will be born in a brahmana family. If you have some passion in you and some goodness, you become a kshatriya. If you have passion and ignorance, right, that's the third one. Right, so there are three gunas: goodness, passion, and ignorance. If you have passion and ignorance, then you become a vaishya, someone who deals with economics. If you've only ignorance in you, then you become a farmer, right? So this is how this caste system is explained. It has to do with the three gunas, the three modes of nature, as they call it, right? So goodness, passion, and ignorance. Alright, so let's pick this up where we left off. And then he died, mourned by all his subjects, and after him, O first of men, thou hast acquired this hereditary kingdom of the Kurus for the last 1,000 years. Thou was installed while a child, and art thus protecting every creature. Janamajaya said, there has not been born in our race a king who has not sought the good of his subjects or been loved by them. Yuck, this just drips out of the boxes, doesn't it? Behold, especially the conduct of my grandsires ever engaged in great achievements. How did my father, blessed with many virtues, meet with his death? Describe everything to me as it happened. I am desirous of hearing it from you. Sauti continued, thus directed by the monarchs, those counselors, ever solicitous of the good of the king, told him everything exactly as it had occurred. And the counselor said, O king, that father of thine, that protector of the whole earth, that foremost of all persons obedient to the scriptures, yeah, obedient to the scriptures, do what they tell you, right? There's a very good song about that. No, you're under control. You do what they tell you now, you're under control. For the people that know that song. It's a good song. Continuing, became addicted to the sports of the field. What the heck is that? Became addicted to the sports of the field? Huh. Even as Pandu of mighty arms, like football, basketball, that's the sport of the field, right? Even as Pandu of mighty arms, that foremost of all bearers of the bow in battle. He made over to us all the affairs of state, from the most trivial to the most important. One day, going into the forest, he pierced a deer with an arrow, and having pierced it, he followed it quickly on foot into the deep woods. So again, we're getting a repeat of a story we've read before, right? Why is that? Why don't you tell a story once? That's enough, Armed with sword and quiver, he could not, however, come upon the lost deer. 60 years of age and decrepit, he was soon fatigued and became hungry. He then saw in the deep woods a high-souled rishi. Alright, so, you can't take these stories literally. I mean, if you shoot a deer and you're 60 years old and you're running after it into the woods trying to find it, doesn't it occur to you that you should at some point, like halfway, turn back because you know you're going to get hungry and thirsty? And you don't want to end up in the middle of the woods like that? He then saw in the deep of the woods a highly souled rishi. The rishi was then observing the vow of silence. Yeah. I remember all that from the last time we were told this story, right? The king asked him about the deer. Remember his son, the rishi's son cursed him. The king asked him about the deer, but though asked, he made no reply. At last the king, already tired with exertion and hunger, suddenly became angry with that rishi, sitting motionless like a piece of wood in observance of his vow of silence. Indeed, the king knew not that he was a Muni, observing the vow of silence. Yeah. How do you not know that, right? Swayed by anger, thy father insulted him, O excellent one of the Bharata race. The king, thy father, taking up from the ground, with the end of his bow, a dead snake, placed it on the shoulders of that Muni of pure soul. But the Muni spoke not a word, good or bad, and was without anger. Good morning, Matty! What's up? He continued in the same posture, bearing the dead snake. That's the end of this section. Moving on to next. Sauti continued. The minister said, that king of kings then spent with hunger and exertion, and having placed the snake upon the shoulders of that Muni, came back to his capital. The Muni had a son, born of a cow, of the name of Sringin. Born of a cow? Is that how they view women? Like cows? Doesn't make sense. This is yucky, right? How do you have a son born of a cow? He was widely known, possessed of great prowess and energy, and very wrathful. Going every day to his preceptor, he was in the habit of worshipping him. Commanded by him, Sringin was returning home when he heard from a friend about this insult of his father by the parent. And, O tiger among kings, he heard that his father, without having committed any fault, was bearing motionless like a statue, upon his shoulder a dead snake placed thereon. O king, the rishi insulted by thy father was severe in ascetic penances, the foremost of munis, the controller of passions, pure and ever engaged in wonderful acts. That's odd. What do you mean, ever engaged in wonderful acts? It sounded like he was just sitting there doing nothing, right? His soul was enlightened with ascetic penances, and his organs and their functions were under complete control. His practices and his speech were both very nice. He was contented and without avarice. He was without meanness of any kind and without envy. He was old and used to observe the vow of silence. What does this mean? That he did do it in the past, or that he got acquainted with it and did it a lot? And he was the refuge whom all creatures might seek in distress. Such was the rishi insulted by thy father. The son, however, of that rishi in wrath cursed thy father. Though young in years, the powerful one was in ascetic splendor. Speedily touching water, he spoke, burning as it were with spiritual energy and rage, those words in allusion to thy father. Behold the power of my asceticism, directed by my words. The snake Takshaka of powerful energy and virulent poison shall, within 7 nights hence, burn with this poison the wretch that has placed the dead snake upon my unoffending father. Alright, so, you get condemned to death because you place a dead snake on somebody's shoulder, and then a bit harsh. And having said this, he went to where his father was, and seeing his father, he told him of this curse. The tiger among rishis thereupon sent to thy father a disciple of his, named Karmuka, of amiable manners and possessed of every virtue. And having rested a while, after arrival at court, he told the king everything, saying in the words of his master, Thou hast been cursed, O king, by my son. Takshaka shall burn thee with his poison. Therefore, O king, be careful. O Janamejaya, hearing those terrible words, thy father took every precaution against the powerful snake, Takshaka. Avarice, noun, extreme greed for wealth or material gain, synonymous, greed, greediness, acquisitiveness, cupidity, covetousness, rapacity. I think I looked up that word avarice before. I thought it also said like when two boys are fighting, that's also called avarice. I could be mistaken though. Alright, Dan, is that okay like that? So where was I? And when the 7th day had arrived, a Brahmana rishi named Kasyapa desired to come to the monarch, but the snake Takshaka saw Kasyapa. And the prince of snakes spoke unto Kasyapa without loss of time, saying, without loss of time. How is that? How do you speak without losing time? Where dost thou go so quickly? And what is the business on which thou goest? Kasyapa replied, O Brahmana, so snake now looks like a Brahmana? What's going on? I'm going with her, King Parikshit, that best of the Kurus. And then it says comma, and then the word is, and it ends there. What kind of sentence is that? Oh, it ties to the word whither. I see. Oh, Brahmana, I'm going whither, king, or in other words, where King Parikshit, that best of Kurus, is. He shall today be burned by the poison of the snake Takshaka. I go there quickly in order to cure him. In fact, in order that, protected by me, the snake may not bite him to death. Takshaka answered, saying, Why dost thou seek to revive the king to be bitten by me? I am that Takshaka. Oh, Brahmana. Oh, so it's the other one that looked like a Brahmana. No, it doesn't. They are both Brahmanas. What's going on here? O Brahmana, behold the wonderful power of my poison. Thou art incapable of reviving that monarch when bit by me. I remember last week we used the example of the tree, burned it to ashes and got revived again. So saying, Takshaka, then and there bit a lord of the forest a banyan tree, and the banyan, as soon as it was bit by the snake, was converted into ashes. But Kasyapa, O king, revived it. Takshaka thereupon tempted him, saying, Tell me thy desire. And Kasyapa, too, thus addressed, spoke unto Takshaka, saying, I go there from desire of wealth. And Takshaka, thus addressed, then spoke unto the high-souled Kasyapa in these soft words, O sinless one, take from me more wealth than what thou expects from the monarch, and go back. Alright, so Takshaka is really bent on fulfilling the curse, right? And Kasyapa, that foremost of men, thus addressed by the snake and receiving from him as much wealth as he desired, went his way back. So, it sounds like a bribe. And he's supposed to be a brahmana, That doesn't make any sense. He just wants wealth. He's more like Kshatriya, filled with passion. That's when you want wealth. And Kasyapa going back, Takshaka approaching in disguise, blasted with fire of his poison the virtuous father, the first of kings. The first of kings? That doesn't make any sense either. There were kings before him. Don't know exactly how that got started. Why do humans need kings? We don't need them. We really don't. This is all to do with control of people, masses of people. Then staying in his mansion with all precautions. And after that, thou was, O tiger among men, being installed on the throne. And, O best of monarchs, Mon is single, right? Arcs is like arch, single arch. An arch is described by the sun and the moon when they cross the sky. Sun is soul, right? Means one, solo. You get the word solo from that. Moon is mono, also means one, right? Because we got one. We got one sun, we got one moon. We have thus told thee all that we have seen and heard, cruel though the account is. And hearing all about the discomfiture of thy royal father, and of the insult to the Rishi Utanka, decide thou which should follow. Sauti continued, King Janamajaya, that chastiser of enemies, then spoke unto all his ministers, and he said, When did ye learn all that happened upon that Banyan, reduced to ashes by Takshaka, and which, wonderful as it is, was afterwards revived by Kasyapa? Assuredly, my father could not have died, for the poison could have been neutralized by Kasyapa with his mantras. Matti Kloos in the chat says, the arches symbolism has been taken over by the Masons. Yeah, I see that also. They're like two pillars with an arch above it, right? Boach and Noam, what's it called again? Noas? Help me out in the chat, guys. What's the name of those two pillars again? Boaz and Noam or something like that. You get stories of those two pillars in myths back as well. That worst of snakes, O sinful soul, though within his mind, that if Kasyapa resuscitated the king bit by him, he, Takshaka, would be an object of ridicule in the world owing to the neutralization of his poison. Assuredly, having thought so, he pacified the Brahmana. I have devised a way, however, of inflicting punishment upon him. I like to know, however, what ye saw or heard, what happened in the deep solitude of the forest. The words of Boaz and Joachim, thank you, Dan. Boaz and Joachim. The words of Takshaka and the speeches of Kasyapa, having known it, I shall devise the means of exterminating the snake race. Alright, so A king places a dead snake on a Muni's shoulders. The son gets angry, curses the king, and now the whole race of snakes is going to be exterminated. Crazy! It's insane! Hey, Bon Jovi, what are you doing? Joachim and Boaz. Yeah, Matty Close. Something like that, anyway. Yeah. The minister said, "Hear, O monarch, of him who told us before of the meeting between that foremost Brahmana and that prince of snakes in the woods. A certain person, O monarch, had climbed up that tree containing some dry branches, with the object of breaking them for the sacrificial fuel. He was not perceived either by the snake or the Brahmana. And, O king, that man was reduced to ashes along with the tree itself. And, O king of kings, he was revived with the tree by the power of the Brahmana." Alright. What does it say here? In the Jewish mystical Kabbalah, Joachim and Boaz are the left and rightmost pillars of the tree of life, mercy and severity, or strength. Joachim represents the male polarity of the universe, light, motion, activity, the electron. Boaz represents the female polarity of the universe, darkness, passivity, receptivity, and silence. Scroll away. The pillars are similar in concept to the Eastern yin-yang, representing opposites in balance. Yep. Well done, Dan. He also posts a picture of that in the chat room. You can also see the arch from right to the left pillar. And yes, it does tie to I Ching also. You've got a line and a broken line there. That's the same thing. It's male and female. The giving and the receptive. It's a way of how they think that the universe works. Right? Polarities. Positive, negative. Right? The minister, did I already read this or not? Yes, I did. So he continued, King Jana, no, I didn't read at all. That man, a Brahmana's menial, having come to us, represented fully everything as it happened between Takshaka and the Brahmana. Thus have we told thee, O king, all that we have seen and heard, and having heard it, O tiger among kings, ordain that which should follow. Yeah. Yeah, that's those Matty Clue says those symbols are interesting to trace the roots of the symbols, and they are much older than Kabbalah. All right, it probably, and this is just my idea. All right, it probably all started, and I got this from Bill Cooper, by the way. And I tend to agree with him wholeheartedly. It probably all started with the sun. You see, we were walking around and surrounded by all kinds of dangers, like tigers and lions and all kinds of things that could attack you. All right, so in the daytime, at least you could see them coming. But at night, that was a problem. You see, especially against cat-like animals, they can see in the dark, so they can see the prey being the human, you see. So the first friend we had was the sun, not only because it gave warmth, but also because it gave some kind of protection, because you could see your enemies coming. See, so the first one that probably got symbolized was the sun. Right? Later also the moon. Some say that the moon was first. I tend to disagree with that. But sun and moon, and they were symbolized first, probably. Ben Job, he says, Bill Cooper did an episode about that. Yeah, I listened to that. And then Ben Job, he says, until we manage to get a control of fire. Yeah, very good, Ben. Indeed. Did you guys see Quest for Fire yet? I told you about that weeks ago. If you haven't seen that movie, it's really good movie. Quest for Fire. I don't know about you guys, but there seems to be a lot of truth in that movie, as far as I can tell. That goes back way, way, way when we were wandering around, Some of the people that you see in there have like small villages, right? And they have they found some way to make fire. And there was this other group of people that didn't know how to make fire yet. They had to carry with them some kind of tool that held a little fire. And they would then create more like bonfires from that fire. And at some point they lost it because they were attacked by another group of people. And they had to go find fire again because they didn't know how to make it yet. So go see it. Quest for Fire. Very, very good movie as far as I'm concerned. I think that's really how it was. Alright, where were we? I think I've lost where we were, guys. Let's pick this up here. Sauti continued, King Janamajaya, having listened to the words of his ministers, was sorely afflicted with grief and began to weep. And the monarch began to squeeze his hands, and the lotus-eyed king began to breathe a long and hot breath, shed tears, and shrieked aloud. And possessed with grief and sorrow, and shedding copious tears, and touching water according to the form, the monarch spoke. And reflecting for a moment as if settling something in his mind, the angry monarch, addressing all ministers, said these words. I have heard your account of my father's ascension to heaven. Know ye now what my fixed resolve is. I think no time must be lost in avenging this injury upon that wretch Takshaka that killed my father. He burned my father, making Sringin, or Jin, I don't know how to pronounce this. He burned my father, making Sringin only a secondary cause. From malignity alone he made Kasyapa return. If that Brahmana had arrived, my father assuredly would have lived. What would he have lost if the king had revived by the grace of Kasyapa and the precautionary measures of his ministers? From ignorance of the effects of my wrath, he prevented Kasyapa, that excellent of Brahmanas, whom he could not defeat, from coming to my father with the desire of reviving him. The act of aggression is great on the part of that wretch Takshaka, who gave wealth unto that Brahmana, in order that he might not revive the king. I must now avenge myself on my father's enemy to please myself, the Rishi Utanka, and you all. Alright, that ends that section. It's the top of the hour. You all know what that means, right? We're gonna play some Poker Face! Yay! Let's take a break, guys. I'll be back after the top of the hour. Here we go. Poker Face 2013.
Alright, Poker Face, guys. We're going to let Paul introduce himself. Poker Face, let's hear it!
Alright, the name of this band is Poker Face. We've been at this for many years. It'll be 20 years next year. In terms of doing political rock. We do it for God, country, family. We do it for language, culture, borders. We don't care what color you are. We care if you call yourself a hyphen, though. Hyphen means that you segregate yourself. Hello? Alright, we're going to do a quick set here. Just to kick things off. A song called Illuminati. More vocals in the monitor, please. Okay. Baby.
Alright, guys. That was Poker Face. And we're back. So, yeah. How you doing, guys? What's up, everybody? Let's continue with the next section. If you have any questions, just put them in the chat room. Please use capital letters so I can easily catch that. Doesn't have to be on topic. You can ask about anything. Especially it's the trivium. and I'll try to answer it to the best of my knowledge. Sauti said, King Janamejaya having said so, his ministers expressed their approbation, and the monarch then expressed his determination to perform a snake sacrifice. And that Lord of the Earth, the tiger of the Bharata race, alright, that's where the word Mahabharata also comes from, by the way, the son of Parikshit then called his priest and Ritviks. What the hell is Ritvik? And accomplished in speech, he spoke unto them these words relating to the accomplishment of his great task. I must avenge myself on that wretched Takshaka who killed my father. Tell me what I must do. Do you know any act by which I may cast into the blazing fire the snake Takshaka with his relatives? I desire to burn that wretch even as he burned of yore by the fire of his poison. The chief priest answered, There is, O king, a sacrifice for thee devised by the gods themselves. It is known as the snake sacrifice, and is read of in the Puranas. O king, thou alone canst accomplish it, and no one else. Men versed in the Puranas have told us there is such a sacrifice. Sauti continued, Thus addressed the king, O excellent one, brought Takshaka to be already burned, no, not brought, thought Takshaka to be already burned and thrown into the blazing mouth of Agni, the eater of the sacrificial butter. The king then said unto those Brahmanas versed in mantras, I shall make preparations for that sacrifice. Tell me the things that are necessary. And the king's Ritviks, O excellent Brahmana, versed in the Vedas and acquainted with the rites of that sacrifice, measured, according to the scriptures, the land for the sacrificial platform. And the platform was decked with valuable articles and with brahmanas, and it was full of precious things and paddy. And the Ritvika sat upon it at ease. And after the sacrificial platform had been thus constructed, according to rule, as desired, they installed the king at the snake sacrifice for the attainment of its object. And before the commencement of the snake sacrifice that was to come, there occurred this very important incident, foreboding obstruction to the sacrifice. For when the sacrificial platform was being constructed, a professional builder of great intelligence and well versed in the knowledge of laying foundations, alright? How Masonic does this sentence sound to you, right? A sutta by caste, well acquainted with the Puranas, said, the soil upon which and the time at which the measurement for the sacrificial platform had been made indicate that the sacrifice will not be completed, a Brahmana becoming the reason thereof. Hearing this, the king, before this installation, gave orders to his gatekeepers not to admit anybody without his knowledge. Next section, guys. Very short one. Sauti said, the snake sacrifice then commenced according to due form. Yeah. And the sacrificial priests, by the way, remember what I said a little bit about the last piece that I read, how Masonic it sounds? This also ties to something that Bill Cooper said. He said that this Masonic order is much, much older than we are led to believe. And it seems that these texts also confirm that. The Sauti said, the snake sacrifice then commenced according to due form, and the sacrificial priests, competent in their respective duties according to the ordinance, clad in black garments and their eyes red from contact with smoke, black and red, poured clarified butter into the blazing fire, uttering the appropriate mantras. You hear that back also a lot, even in today's stories. Men in black with red eyes. Yeah. That's why I don't like red ice. And causing the hearts of all the snakes to tremble with fear, they poured clarified butter into the mouth of Agni, uttering the names of the snakes. And the snake thereupon began to fall into the blazing fire, benumbed and piteously, something like that, calling upon one another, and swollen, and breathing hard, and twinning each other with their hands and tails, they came in large numbers and fell into the fire. The white, the black, the blue, the old and the young, all fell alike into the fire, uttering various cries. What a strange story. Those measuring a krosa, and those measuring a yojana, and those of the measure of Gokarna, fell continuously with great violence into that first of all fires. Again, first of all fires, what the heck is that? And hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of snakes, deprived of all control over their limbs, perished on that occasion. And amongst those that perished, there were some that were like horses, and other like trunks of elephants, and others of huge bodies and strength like maddened elephants, of various colors and virulent poison, terrible and looking like maces, furnished with iron spikes, of great strength, ever inclined to bite. The snakes, afflicted with their mother's curse, fell into the fire. And it's the end of that section. Continuing. Sanauka asked, what great rishis became the Ritviks at the snake sacrifice of the wise king Janamejaya of the Pandava line, who also became the Sadasyas in that terrible snake sacrifice, so frightful to the snakes, and begetting such sorrow in them. They mention here the Pandava line. That's one of the bloodlines which play a important role in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. It behooves thee to describe all these in details, so that, O son of Sutta, we may know who were acquainted with the rituals of the snake sacrifice. Sauter replied, I will recite the names of those wise ones who became the monarchs Ritviks and Sadasyas. Yeah. Who became the monarchs Ritviks and Sadasyas. Yeah, I don't know what you guys are hearing, but it sounds like these are like magicians. Like, what's this name's guy from King Arthur? He also had his servants, one of them being some kind of wizard, right? The Brahmana Chandabhargava became the Hotri in that sacrifice. Alright, I'm getting kind of sick of this. You know, if you don't know how to translate this, don't translate it. What am I supposed to do with words like Ritvik, Sadhyasyas, and Hotris? Just translate it into English as best as you can. Don't leave me in the dark here. He was of great reputation and was born in the race of Chaivana, and was the foremost of those acquainted with the Vedas. He learned old Brahmana, Merlin, yeah, that was Merlin. By the way, those names, you know, like Lancelot, It just means he uses his lens a lot, you know? Yeah. Whatever you can think of that, right? He learned old Brahmana Kautsa became the Udgatri, the chanter of the Vedic hymns. Jaimini became the Brahmana, and the Sangarva and Pingala the Advairiyus. Jonge. Vaishya, Vyasa with his sons and disciples, and Udalaka, Pramataka, Svetaketu, Pingala, Asita, Devala, Narada, Parvata, Atreya, sounds like Atreyu, right? Kandajatara, the Brahmana Kalagata, Vatsya, old Srutasravas, ever engaged in japa, and japa means sacrifice, as far as I can remember. Why do you guys not translate this properly? And the study of the Vedas, okay? The one thing that springs out here, it starts with, or in the middle of the sentence, it says, Vyasa with his sons. This Vyasa is writing about himself here. He is the author of this stuff. Good morning, Jules. How you doing? Alright, japa, the word that I called sacrifice, it's also to do with, you know how some of these Christians, they have this kind of chain-like thing. I think they call it rose something. I don't know the English word for it. And they use that to pray to God, you know. The Indians have the same thing. They call it a japa. It's a string of small little balls, all strung together, 108 of them. You see that number again, right? And they roll between their fingers these little balls as they chant a mantra. And when they finish chanting the mantra, they go to the next one until they finish 108, and then they turn around and go back again. Alright? So that's the sacrifice. That's how they do sacrifice. It's called a rosary, says Meat Talk. Welcome. Welcome. Alright, so that's where that comes from, you see? Kohala Deva Sarman Maut. Oh, it's Catholics. I'm sorry. Yeah. Maut Galia. These names, man. Sama Saurava and many other Brahmanas who had got through the Vedas became the Sadasyas at that sacrifice of the son of Parikshit. When the Ritviks in that snake sacrifice began to pour clarified butter into the fire, terrible snakes, striking fear into every creature, began to fall into it. And the fat and the marrow of the snakes, thus falling into the fire, began to flow in rivers. And the atmosphere was filled with an insufferable stench, owing to the incessant burning of the snakes. And incessant also were the cries of the snakes fallen into the fire, and those in the air about to fall in it. In the air? Meanwhile, Takshaka, the prince of snakes, as soon as he heard that King Janamejaya was engaged in the sacrifice, went to the palace of Purandara. That's the palace of Indra. And that best of snakes, having represented all that had taken place, sought in terror the protection of Indra after having acknowledged his fault. And Indra, gratified, told him, O Prince of Snakes, O Takshaka, here thou hast no fear from that snake sacrifice. The grandsire was pacified by me for thy sake. Therefore, thou hast no fear. Let this fear of thy heart be allayed. Or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce that. A-L-L-A-Y-E-D. Sauti continued. Thus encouraged by him, that best of snakes began to dwell in Indra's abode in joy and happiness. But Vasuki, seeing that the snakes were incessantly falling into the fire, and that his family was reduced to only a few, became exceedingly sorry. And the king of the snakes was afflicted with great grief, and his heart was about to break. Hold on, guys. And summoning his sister, he spoke unto her, saying, O amiable one, my limbs are burning, and I no longer see the points of the heavens. Alright, so a lot of smoke in the air. I'm about to fall down from loss of consciousness. My mind is turning, my sight is falling, and my heart is breaking. Benumbed, I may fall today into the blazing fire. The sacrifice of the son of Parikshit is for the extermination of our race. It is evident I also shall have to go to the abode of the king of the dead. The time is come, O my sister, on account of which thou wert bestowed by me on Jaratkaru to protect us with our relatives. O best of the women of the snake race, Ashtika will put an end to the sacrifice that is going on. The grandsire told me of this old ... That's a sentence somehow. Therefore, O child, solicit thy dear son, who is fully conversant with the Vedas, and regarded even by the old for the protection of myself and also dependent on me. Yeah. That was the end of that section. Moving on to next. Sauti said, Then the snake dame Jaratkaru, calling her own son, told him the following words according to the directions of Vasuki, the king of the snakes. O son, the time is come for the accomplishment of that object for which I was bestowed on thy father by my brother. Therefore do thou that which should be done. Ashtika asked, Why wert thou, then it says in the chat, allied, or however you pronounce it, it's a verb, to relieve pain, grief, etc., or be relieved. That's explanation 1. 2 is to reduce fear, anger, etc. Alright, there you go. Thanks, Coop. Astika asked, Why wert thou, O mother, bestowed on my father by my uncle? Tell me all truly, so that on hearing it I may do what is proper. Then Jaratkaru, the sister of the king of snakes, herself unmoved by the general distress, and even desirous of the welfare of her relatives, said unto him, O son, it is said that the mother of all snakes is Kadru. Know thou why she cursed in anger her sons. Addressing the snakes, she said, As ye have refused to falsify, represent, Uchyaisravas, the prince of horses, right? This ties back to that bet they had, right? About the horse, whether it was white or had a black tail. For bringing about Vinata's bondage according to the wager. Therefore, shall he whose charioteer is Vaju burn you all in Janamajaya's sacrifice. And perishing in that sacrifice, ye shall go to the region of the unredeemed spirits. The grandsire of all the world spoke unto her while uttering this curse. Be it so. And thus approved of her speech. Vasuki, having heard the curse, and then the words of the grandsire, sought the protection of the gods. O child, on the occasion when the Amrita was being churned for, and the gods, their object fulfilled, for they had obtained the excellent Amrita, with Vasuki ahead, approached the grandsire, and all the gods, with King Vasiku, sought to incline him, who was born of the lotus, to be propitious. Him is spelled with a capital H here. So that the curse might be made abortive. And the gods said, O Lord, Vasuki, the king of the snakes, is sorry on account of his relatives. How may his mother's curse prove abortive? Brahman thereupon replied, saying, Jaratkaru will take unto herself a wife of the name of Jaratkaru. The Brahmana born of her will relieve the snakes. Vasuki, the best of snakes, hearing those words, bestowed me, O thou of godlike looks, on the high-souled father some time before the commencement of the sacrifice, and from that marriage thou art born of me. The time has come. It behooves thee to protect us from this danger. It behooves thee to protect my brother and myself from the fire, so that the object or relief for which I was bestowed on thy wise father may not be unfulfilled. What dost thou think, O son? Sauti continued. Thus addressed, Astika said unto his mother, Yes, I will. And then he addressed the afflicted Vasuki, and, as if infusing life into him, said, O Vasuki, thou best of snakes, thou great being, truly do I say, I shall relieve thee from that curse. Be easy, O snake. There is no fear any longer. I shall strive earnestly so that good may come. Nobody has ever said that my speech, even in jest, has proved false. Hence, on serious occasions like this, I need not say anything more. O uncle, going hither today, I shall gratify, with words mixed with blessings, the monarch Janamajaya installed at the sacrifice, so that, O excellent one, the sacrifice may stop. O high-minded one, O king of snakes, believe all that I say. Believe me, my resolve can never be unfulfilled. And Vasuki then said, O Astika, my head swims and my heart breaks. I cannot discern the points of earth, as I am afflicted with a mother's curse. And Astika said, Thou best of snakes, it behooves thee not to grieve any longer. I shall dispel this fear of thine from the blazing fire. This terrible punishment, capable of burning like the fire at the end of the Yuga, I shall extinguish. Nurse not thy fear any longer. Sauti continued. Then the best of Brahmanas, Astika, quelling the terrible fear of the Vasuki's heart, and taking it as it were on himself, went for the relief of the king of snakes with speed to Janamajaya's sacrifice, blessed with every merit. And Astika, having gone there, beheld the excellent sacrificial compound with numerous sadasyas on it, whose splendor was like unto that of the sun or Agni. Alright, remember Agni is fire. But that best of Brahmanas was refused admittance by the doorkeepers, and the mighty ascetic gratified them, being desirous of entering the sacrificial compound. And that best of Brahmanas, that foremost of all virtuous men, having entered the excellent sacrificial compound, began to adore the king of the infinite achievements, Ritwiks, the Sadyas, and also the sacred fire. Hey, 17 dog. Welcome. This is a story about snakes, a snake sacrifice, and it's quoted from the Mahabharata. Alright, that's Mahabharata, Mahabharata. These are ancient texts known as Vedas. Veda. They are the oldest known scriptures that have to do with religion, economics, medical things, actually anything. You know, you can find something about it in the Vedas. It is said to cover all. Anything that you want to know, you can find something in the Vedas. No, it is not Hinduism, although Hinduism itself is not a religion. It is a group of religions, you know, just like Christianity. Do you know how many different forms of Christianity there are? Same goes for Hinduism. It's just a name for a group of religions, and they all base themselves on these texts, known as the Vedas, of which the Mahabharata is just a part, alright? If you have any more questions, 17, just put them in the chat. Please use capital letters though, you have a bigger chance of me catching it then, alright? Interesting, he says. Alright, very good. Picking this up, don't worry. Ashtika said, so Soma and Varuna and Prajapati performed sacrifices of old in Prajaga, but the sacrifice of foremost one of Bharata's race, O son of Parikshit, is not inferior to any of those. Let those dear unto us be blessed. Sakra performed 100 sacrifices, but this sacrifice of thine, O foremost of the Bharata race, O son of Parikshit, is fully equal to 10,000 sacrifices of Sakra. Dan is asking something about Vimanas and their relationships to UFOs, alright? That's mumbo jumbo, as far as I can tell you. And the thing is that I contacted one of these people that are supposed to be, you know, as you hear in these texts a lot, well versed in the Vedas, alright? And so I asked them, what is it with these Vimanas? Yeah, well, they are airplanes, alright? And I asked them also, where can I find a description of these airplanes? And they couldn't tell me. Alright, so if you cannot point me to the source, then I have to say, alright, it's mumbo jumbo, it's just hearsay, that's what it is. If you cannot point me to a verse, either in the Srimad Bhagavatam or any of the other Vedas, and say, well, it's chapter so-and-so, verse so-and-so, then it is unsourced, and therefore cannot be taken seriously. Do you understand, Dan? Alright, so that's enough about Vimanas. Alright, it's a myth as far as I'm concerned. And even if they do give some source, and say, well, it's in Mahabharata, Canto 6, chapter 16, verse 12, I'm just naming random one here, then I could look it up and see in what context this is being brought forth. You know, these are mythologies. You're not supposed to take any of this literally. You can't. You'll get stuck if you do that. Alright. picking this up. Where was I? O son of Parikshit, let those dear unto us be blessed. Let the sacrifice of Maya, of King Sasavindu, or of King Vaisravana, in this sacrifice of thine, O foremost of the one of Bharata's race, O son of Satyavati, in which he himself was the chief priest. Alright, we'll pick this sentence up again. 17 asks, aren't the Vedas texts used in the Hindu religion? Yes. What's the question? I said, Hindu religion is not one religion. It's a group of religions. They are all based on the Vedas. Right? They all use the Vedas. But like with Christianity or Catholics, they all have different interpretations of what these so-called sacred texts are saying. You see? Most of them think they know what it says, right? But if you take that as a fact, you must recognize that most of them have it wrong. If not all of them. You see? Because you can't have all of these religions having the quote-unquote true religion. There can only be one true God, so to speak, right? And like I said at the beginning of the show, this stuff has been hijacked. These texts are used to control you. That's what it's about. Alright, think about that. Picking this up somewhere in the middle of the sentence. O foremost one, of son of Satyavati, in which he himself was the chief priest, is this sacrifice of Nriga, of Ajamida, of the son of Dasartha. 17 says, why the preoccupation with snake serpents? Well, first of all, the snake is a symbolic issue here, you know. All of the myths that are out there that have snakes or dragons in them, they can be seen as the same. It's like the Chinese dragon, all right? It's symbolism. And it's not a preoccupation. This is just a very, very small part of this whole Mahabharata. Alright, so while it may seem like we've been going on about snakes for the last couple of Solvinur events, it's nothing. It really isn't. There's so much more that we're going to get to if we get the chance, that you won't say that this is a preoccupation with snakes. It's just a story. Alright? Okay, let's try this. Pick this sentence up again. Is this sacrifice of Mriga, of Ajamida, of the son of Dasartha, is this sacrifice of thine, O foremost of Bharata's race, O son of Parikshit? Let those dear unto us be blessed. Like the sacrifice of King Yudhishthira, that's Pandava, the son of a god. Yeah, he's the son of what's his name again? Dharma. That's Dharma. The son of a god and belonging to Ajamida's race, heard of in the heavens, is this sacrifice of thine, O foremost of Bharata's race, O son of Parikshit, let those dear unto us be blessed. Like the sacrifice of Krishna, the son of Satyavati, in which he himself was the chief priest, is this sacrifice of thine, O foremost of the Bharata race. O son of Parikshit, let those dear unto us be blessed. Alright, probably gonna get that be blessed repeated a couple of times. So Appelled or something in the chat room, I don't know how to pronounce your name, makes a correct statement. The snake has been symbol of knowledge and learning forever. Totally religion independent. Mayan, Egyptian, Southeast Asian. Yeah. Banjoy points out correctly, for Indians it is Naga. That's correct. Naga is another word for snake. Alright. Where were we? I lost where we were. Blah, blah. These Ritwiks and Sadashyas that are here engaged in making thy sacrifice, like unto that of the slayer of Vritra, are of splendor equal to that of the sun. There now remains nothing for them to know, and gifts made to them become inexhaustible in merit. It is my conviction that there is no Ritvik in all the worlds who is equal to thy Ritvik, Dvaipayana. His disciples, becoming Ritvik, competent for their duties, travel over the earth. Hold on, guys. Yeah, that's also correct, Appalled. It would be difficult to find an ancient temple anywhere without a snake carved on it. Dan is a joke. Dan makes a joke in the chat room. I'll not repeat it, because I don't want to even name this dude. Yeah. And if you hear that, you probably know who I'm talking about. He's a gatekeeper, you know. Trying to give you a red herring, right? Lead you on the wrong path. Hey, Anon37, welcome. What's up, everybody? The high soul bearer of libation, called also Vibhavasu and Chitrabhanu, having gold for his vital seed, and having his path marked by black smoke, blazing up with flames inclined to the right, bears these thy libations of clarified butter to the gods. In this world of men, there is no other monarch equal to thee in the protection of subjects. I am ever well pleased with thy abstinence. Indeed, thou art either Varuna or Yama, the god of justice. Like Sakra himself, thunderbolt in hand, thou art in this world the protector of all creatures. In this earth there is no man so great as thou, and no monarch who is thy equal in sacrifice. Let me light my cigarette, guys. Thou art like Katwanga, Nabaga, and Dilipa. In prowess thou art like Jajati and Mandatri. In splendor equal to the sun, and of excellent vows. Thou art, O monarch, like Bhishma. Alright, that's a compliment. Like Bhishma. Oh, wow. That's one of the Pandavas. If I remember correct, sometimes I get these names confused. It's like Bhima and Bhishma, right? Both of them. Anyway. Like Valmika, thou art of energy concealed. Like Vasishta, thou hast controlled thy wrath. Like Indra is thy lordship. Thy splendor also shines like that of Narayana. Narayana is that one I told you about a couple of weeks ago that can travel the universe without any help of spaceship or whatever. Like Yama art thou conversant with the dispensation of justice. Thou art like Krishna adorned with every virtue. Thou art the home of the good fortune that belongs to the Vasus. Thou art also the refuge of the sacrifices. Yeah. Thou art like Krishna, adorned with every virtue. Yeah. He is the one that's responsible for the battlefield at Kurukshetra, killing millions of people, according to the mythology, of course, right? In strength thou art equal to Damvobharva, like Rama, which is a brother of Krishna, the son of Jamadagni, thou art conversant with the scriptures and arms. In energy thou art equal to Arva and Trita. Thou inspires terror by thy looks like Bhagirata. Sauti said, having thus adored them, gratified them all, the king, the Sadhyasis, the Ritviks, and the sacrificial fire. And the king Janamajaya, beholding the signs and indications manifested all around, addressed them as follows. Paul says in the chat room, the Rig Veda is a collection. Yeah, the Rig Veda is just, and that again is just a part of the Vedas, right? There's more Veda, alright? The Rig Veda is a collection of inspired songs and hymns, and is a main source of information on the Rig Vedic civilization. Yeah. It is the oldest book in any Indo-European language and contains the earliest form of Sanskrit mantras that date back to 1500 BC to 1000 BC. Some scholars date the Rig Veda as early as 12,000 BC to 4000 BC. Alright? I will go with the last one. They even say 12,000 BC. I've been taught 5,000 to 7,000 years ago. So that's 5,000 BC. Alright? It could be older than that. I don't know. But yeah, Paul, I believe there are four. The Vedas are divided into four pieces. The Rig Veda being one of them. And they are so huge that even reading just one part of that is going to take you a lifetime, you know? So, says also, the Vedas are considered the earliest literary record of Indo-Aryan civilization. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that one, Paul, because apparently in one of the older, not older, how do I put this? One of the latest writings that appeared, they talk about the Aryans invading their country. Alright? So they existed long before the Aryans came along. Alright? Alright, where did I leave off, guys? Where was I? Next section we were. Janamajaya said, though this one is but a boy, he speaks yet like a wise old man. He is not a boy, but one wise and old. I think I desire to bestow on him a boon. Therefore, ye Brahmanas, give me the necessary permission. Okay, I'm going to give my vote here, because it's up to us, they said. So, I'm going to use Jules's permission here, and give my vote. There you go. The Sadashiya said, a Brahmana, though a boy, deserves the respect of kings. The learned ones do more so. This boy deserves every desire of his being fulfilled by thee, but not before Takshaka comes with speed. Sauti continued. The king, being inclined to grant the Brahmana a boon, said, Ask thou a boon. The Hotri, however, being rather displeased, said, Takshaka has not come as yet into this sacrifice. Janamejaya replied, Exert ye to the best of your might, so that this sacrifice of mine may attain completion. And Takshaka also may soon come here. He is my enemy. The Ritviks replied, As the scriptures declare unto us, and as the fire also says, O monarch, it seems that Takshaka is now staying in the abode of Indra, afflicted with fear. Sauti continued. The illustrious Sutta named Lohitaksha, also conversant with the Puranas, has said so before. Asked by the king on the present occasion, he again told the monarch, Sire, it is even so as the Brahmanas have said. Knowing the Puranas, I say, O monarch, that Indra has granted him this boon, saying, Dwell with me in concealment, and Agni shall not burn thee. Sauti continued. Hearing this, the king installed in the sacrifice became very sorry and urged the Hotri to do his duty. And as the Hotri with mantras began to pour clarified butter into the fire, Indra himself appeared on the scene. Wow. And the illustrious one came in his car. His car, right? This doesn't make sense. Anyway, adorned by all the gods standing around, followed by masters of clouds, celestial singers, and the several bevies of celestial dancing girls. I don't know how to pronounce that, guys. Bevies. And Takshaka, anxious with fear, hid himself in the upper garment of Indra and was not visible. Then the king in his anger again said unto his mantra-knowing Brahmans these words, bent upon the destruction of Takshaka. If the snake Takshaka be in the abode of Indra, cast him into the fire with Indra himself. Sauti, Hotri, it's spelled Hotri, Jax. How you doing, by the way? Good to see you, buddy. Sauti continued. Urged by the king, Janamejaya, about Takshaka, the Hotri poured libations, naming that the snake then staying there. What kind of sentence is that? I don't get it. And even as the libations were poured, Takshaka with Purandara himself, anxious and afflicted, became visible in a moment in the skies. Then Purandara, seeing that sacrifice, became much alarmed, and quickly casting Takshaka off, went back to his own abode. After Indra had gone away, Takshaka, the prince of snakes, insensible with fear, was by virtue of the mantras brought near enough the flames of the sacrificial fire. The Ritviks then said, O King of Kings, good to hear, Jax. The Ritviks then said, O King of Kings, the sacrifice of thine is being performed duly. It behooves thee, O Lord, to grant a boon now to this first of Brahmanas. Janamejaya then said, Thou immeasurable one, of such handsome and childlike features, I desire to grant thee a worthy boon. Therefore ask thou which thou desirest in thy heart. I promise thee that I will grant it even if it be ungrantable. Hello. The Ritviks said, O monarch, behold, Takshaka is soon coming under thy control. His terrible cries and loud roar is being heard. Assuredly, the snake has been forsaken by the wielder of thunder. His body being disabled by your mantra, he is falling from heaven. Even now, rolling in the skies and deprived of consciousness, the prince of snakes comes, breathing loudly. Sauti continues. While Takshaka, the prince of snakes, was about to fall in the sacrificial fire, during those few moments, Astika spoke as follows. O Janamajaya, if thou wouldst grant me a boon, let this sacrifice of thine come to an end, and let no more snakes fall into the fire. O Brahmana, the son of Parikshit, being thus addressed by Astika, became exceedingly sorry and replied to Astika thus, O illustrious one, gold, silver, kine, whatever other possessions thou desirest, I shall give unto thee, but let not my sacrifice come to an end. Astika thereon replied, Gold, silver, or kine I do not ask of thee, O monarch, but let thy sacrifice be ended, so that my maternal relations be relieved. Sauti continues, the son of Parikshit, being thus addressed by Astika, repeatedly said this unto that foremost of speakers. Best of the Brahmanas, ask some other boon, O blessed be thou. But, O thou of Bhrigu's race, he did not beg any other boon. Then all the Sadashyas, conversant with the Vedas, told the king in one voice, let the Brahmana receive his boon. That's the end of that section. So now cassette. O son of Sutta, I desire to hear the names of all those snakes that fell into the fire of this snake sacrifice. Sautu replied, many thousands of tens of thousands and billions of snakes fell into the fire. O most excellent Brahmana, so great is the number that I am unable to count them all. So far, however, as I remember, here the names I mention of the principal snakes cast into the fire. Here first the names of the principal ones of Vasuki's race alone, of color blue, red and white, of terrible form and huge body and deadly poison. Helpless and miserable and afflicted with their mother's curse, they fell into the sacrificial fire like libations of butter. Now here are some names of them. Kosita, Manasa, Purna, Kala, Pala Halmaka, Pichala, Kanaupa, Chakra, Kalavega, Prakalana, Hiranyavahu, Karana, Kakshaka, Kaladantaka. These snakes born of Vasuki fell into the fire. Alright, this is page 114. We'll pick this up next week, because it's almost the end. Gonna hear the bumper coming in soon. So thanks a lot for listening, everybody. Everybody in the chat room, two Anons, Appalled, Vince, Schmutzi, Schmutzi, that's German. Jules, Joe, Jax, Dan, Del, Ben, Anon 37, 001, and 17 Meat Dog. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope to see you guys back next week, so we can continue with this snake business. I would say take care, everybody. Have a nice day. Enjoy the weekend. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks a lot, guys. See you later.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific